you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. August 24th on Monday. Well, thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already, right there. And follow PPD at PPD News. Fix my headset. Got a big show, a lot to talk about today. We're having some trouble on Scope, folks. All right. Periscope. I think you know what I think it is? I don't think they like us streaming on both mine and PPD's. I mean, obviously, I have more followers on PPD, but PPD sponsors the show, so we should be able to do both. But they're giving me a little bit of an issue. I can't comment to you. It may bump us. So if it does, you may want to head over to YouTube. It's in my Twitter feed. All right, just to get that out of the way. So now that it is, and if you guys join late, inform people, right? That Scope is giving us a problem. Some polling, definitely some polling I want to talk about today. Things about polling I want to talk about today. And of course, the RNC kicks off their convention. All right. So, Lori. Anyway, her bad. Right. So the RNC and Trump, the Republicans and Trump will kick off. It's their turn. The incumbent always gets second, the last say, so to speak. And then a great article that ran on PPD over the weekend about, we're always hear about a bounce. Favorability is not a bounce. All right. And there has been timing. We talked about this last week, didn't we? About how if there's really something you think you may see that's a little off, then you will see it in the timing of these media polls. Okay. They do this. I mean, look, I don't know why we're fooling people here. We're not fooling people. All right. They do it. They time polling the way that they think it'll help their cause and their effort. So if you don't see polling coming out, like favorability, folks, is not a bounce. Biden got a 5-point bounce in favorability. That's not a bounce. We're redefining what, decades old terms that we've been using in this business forever. And it's making me a little uncomfortable. That's not what a bounce is. A bounce is when a lead grows a candidate, or in this case, the ticket, their lead grows from where it was before. Favorability rating has absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay? People can have a horrible favorability rating like Donald Trump was constantly getting into 2016, yet he still got a bounce. Like the CNN poll clearly showed, they fired that pollster. All right. There's a couple of things inside I want to talk about. And then, like I said, on PPD, great article that was written by Mike Joseph Shepard, who wrote about the betting markets, which Barnes and I had spoken about during the convention last week. It's a little bit of a first here that a candidate and a ticket saw their odds collapse, really collapse during their convention. Okay. That should not happen. And Trump is the Trump-Pence ticket now in Vegas, right? We'll collectively call it Vegas like he does. Vegas is now seeing what is essentially close to a 50-50 race, even though, interestingly, there's not a lot of top lines from the polls to justify that. But if you look inside the polling data, there's some weird, screwy stuff going on. And then Biden and Harris sat for their first joint interview on Good Morning America with David Muir. And honestly, folks, I think it was a catastrophe. So there's like all of these like third party things. We got these riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There are these things that are telling bettors, political gamblers, then you know what? This may not be the kind of race that the top lines in the polls are giving credit for. And let's start there with something Barnes tweeted out over the weekend. And I grabbed the graphic. Okay. This is from, this was on MSNBC. All right. And I know if you're a Trump supporter, you don't want to watch MSNBC, but you should always watch different points of view, folks. You know how I feel about that. MSNBC is touting the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. Look inside the poll. And what were you going to say, Laura? It's good for you, right? That's what Laura was saying. It's good for them. It
gets the blood flowing.
Here, I would go ahead. Tell them.
What you're up against. And it's also good to see that, how the disparity between the two are. And then you make your decision between extreme left to the right. And then you get your educated, I guess. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Make a more informed decision. That's what you're saying. Make a more informed decision. Yeah. I totally agree. And then the first thing, because I cut her mic off, what she was saying is, if you're on the left, you'll want to watch Fox News. If you're on the right, or at least dip into them, because you'll want to see what your opponent is doing. That's what she was trying to say in the beginning, right? So anyway, and we have to unfortunately just watch everybody, as grueling as it is. All right. But there was something anyway. Let's get to this, because inside the poll itself, and I've been saying this, Biden is not making any inroads with the voters Hillary Clinton lost, who had voted for Barack Obama, then for Donald, and him. He was on the ticket against both McCain and Mitt Romney, and then some of them that didn't vote in a while and then came in to vote for Donald Trump. All right. He's making no gains with these voters. I've been telling you this over and over and over again. Okay. The difference in the Wall Street Journal NBC News poll and like some of the others like YouGov is that college educated white. And we're going to go through it. So in the YouGov poll, Trump was only losing college educated whites by about 3 points. He was stomping Biden among non-college educated. All right. So in this Wall Street Journal poll, there was a little bit of a difference there. So Biden does have a lead in the Wall Street Journal poll with educated whites with college degrees, 58-35. And I got to tell you, folks, this looks eerily similar to 2016 in some of these other live caller phone only polls, which I am going to talk. Do not go anywhere, guys. Don't miss it, because I'm going to blow something up that you're just not hearing about. So don't go anywhere. All right. And it has to do with these kinds of polls and just all polling at this point, at this juncture. Look at that number with whites without a college degree. That is 5 points below our bare minimum for Hillary Clinton to win the election in the 2016 election projection model. She could get 32% and still win if the political stars elsewhere aligned for her. And that is true because Biden right there has a sizable lead with college educated whites. However, we saw this kind of stuff with Hillary Clinton as well, with certain polls. And in the end, that lead did not hold. And we were talking on Twitter with someone before about this. It is not uncommon for me to see these voters race back to their partisan leanings, especially on the presidential level. And you'll see that, by the way, with minorities as well. They'll flirt with the Republican. This is the thing, though. The lead, from a historical point of view, Trump's overperformance with these minority voters and these working class white voters is historically bigger than some of the flirtation leads we've seen for Democrats with whites with college degrees before. So if they do race back, is what I'm saying, they have a bigger, far bigger way to go with Trump than they do with Biden. So while everything on paper says that this is, Biden's race to lose, he's a strong candidate. I told you guys in the end, in Pennsylvania, right? That could be the clincher if Trump holds Arizona. That could be the clincher state. Like Connor Lamb was saying last week during the convention, somebody like a Joe Biden on paper to the media class, they think this is a strong candidate, but it is very difficult in Appalachia, in the Appalachia region, in the Rust Belt to go and argue that I did something my entire career, but now I'm going to shift courses. It's a hard case to make. That is an extremely difficult case to make. All right. And you can see it with that lead right there. He's trailing Hillary Clinton, her targets in 2016. All right. And we're expected to believe, that the new people that are coming into this electorate are going to be outsized, overwhelmingly liberal, and that there'll be a huge number of them. Folks, the data is just not there. They need those voters to stay home too. It's not good enough to just get a bunch of new. It's not. If he's going to get killed like that among the working class, he's going to lose county after county after county. And I always bring up Erie, but it matters. I bring it up because it matters. Erie went for Barack Obama by 16 points. He won Pennsylvania by 4 against Mitt Romney. Biden on the ticket, 16 points. Luzerne. These are the areas Donald Trump not only carried, but has continued. This is what I was saying. If you look at the voter file, it just continues to chip and chip and chip and chip. And we talk about these suburbs, but in the end, it's not enough. And on net, the net result is a stronger Republican lean. And that's not even the right way to put it, because Republican is not the right way to put it. Trumplican. A regular Republican cannot carry the state of Pennsylvania. It's not even possible. Toomey was going to lose if it was not for Donald Trump. Those working class voters said, let's give him the kind of Senate he needs to govern. That's what happened. All right. So I want to get into. Oh, go ahead, Laura. Go ahead.
Well,
go. Hold on. I booted you real quick. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, to go with what you were stating earlier, the disparity between Trump and Biden and how Trump really can gain more, and there's less for like that gap. Like that restaurant owner that we were speaking to just Saturday. The other evening. Yeah. Right? Talk about him. That was Saturday night. I always got to swap back microphones. That was what she's talking about is somebody that we spoke with on Saturday night. And he is a white, let's say upscale is a good way to, right? Restaurant owner, upscale restaurant owner. And he's a Democrat. Okay. However, he doesn't like what he sees. He doesn't like Donald Trump. He doesn't like his attitude. He doesn't like his approach, his style. But we're talking about a matter of policy, right? And when you dig into where people stand on the issues, sometimes you realize, especially in some places like a state like North Carolina, these are people that they are Democrats and they will call themselves Democrats. But on the presidential level, they are much more independent than you would think. And in fact, when you start, we're talking about a coastal. This guy is a coastal
above middle age, white man, educated, affluent, has a high income. When you get more too into the southern and western region of that state, then you just run into Democrats like him who just will tell you, yeah, I'm a Democrat. Who are you voting for? Republican. It doesn't even matter. I mean, Trump, of course, there's some feelings about Trump, but they would have told you they're voting for Mitt Romney too, because at the presidential level, they're much more conservative and they don't agree with the national party's platform. All right. So this throws a whole bunch of weird things into the mix that makes it hard for media pollsters to gauge a state like North Carolina. All right. Which, like I said, don't go anywhere, because I want to tell you about a conversation we had with people on Friday about polling in generally this cycle. Okay. And it actually, you know what? Now is a good time to do it, because we were just talking about those working class numbers. Here it is. Okay. So we're going to start doing a national tracker soon. All right. And I'll tell you guys more about this. We're going to partner with another media outlet. Basically, has contracted with Big Data Poll, and we're going to do a national tracker, and then we're going to do something very much like the Rust Belt idea I've been talking to you about. Okay. In our conversations with other pollsters and vendors, right? Because we'll set up what are essentially quotas, right? Where we oversample a lot. And I know Laura always gets mad when I talk about certain secret sauce things, but it's not, it has to be told in order to tell the story. Okay. There are a few groups this election cycle that nobody is reaching. Nobody. Everyone is having these problems, and they're asking me about tactics. All right. Collectively, because the vendor has other clients, right? A lot of these pollsters that you see, they just hire the people we work with to run their caddies, right? So they don't have call centers in the pollster's firm. They hire a caddy, right, to do it. And those are the vendors. I'm talking about one such vendor, and is that right now. And nobody is reaching certain groups of people. So when you see Biden, what's Biden's lead with younger voters? It would be much, much more accurate to know that if they could reach millennial men, but they're not reaching millennial men. Okay. Middle-aged working black men that are not urban voters, they're not reaching them. Okay. Anyone who's middle class, and again, particularly a problem of men, middle and working class Americans outside of metro areas, they're not reaching them. What's happening is, and this is why we firmly believe it's just our philosophy in oversampling, because and setting quotas and oversampling. So we know we need a certain amount of this group to get an accurate representation of their vote preference. All right. If you cannot reach them, you cannot extrapolate out to the rest of a state. Like, for instance, I give you Marquette University. They're a good poll. They do the best they can do over there. They've had some misfires, but they're still a good poll. All right. And they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're transparent. So in that last poll they put out, that was Biden plus what, 3 or 4 or something like that. You could clearly see and we will do this too. We will give you a geographical map, and you will see data points on the map. And that will tell you by region where we are reaching voters and who specifically is in that sample. At least he does that in an effort to be transparent. Okay. And you can clearly see they're not reaching anybody in the areas of the state that is swing areas of the state that you need to know what those people are thinking. You cannot reach a working class man outside of Milwaukee, in a Milwaukee suburb, and know what somebody is doing in Russ County, what somebody's thinking in Russ. But that's what they're doing, because those people are not answering. When we blast out an email, hey, please take this survey, they're not answering as fast as the metro people are answering. And in fact, they're not only as fast, they're just not answering at the same rates. So what happens is when you put in those quotas, data collection begins to slow. Then you get out of the range of a normal period that you want to be in the field conducting field work. So 3 to 5 days in a national election, right? Maybe even 5 to 7. If you start heavily or being strict with those quotas, and you say, I got enough women who live in the suburb, I need men and women who work out in Polk, right? It will slow down and move you beyond the duration that you gave for your client. So they're telling the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, we'll have it collected. Once we get the questionnaire together, we'll have it running. We'll be in the field, and we'll do 5 days in the field. if they're still oversampling, they're going to have to call it quits. And they're going to have to try to fill in the gaps of who they didn't get. And what I am saying to you right now is that it is not an industry secret that nobody is reaching certain groups of voters. It just so happens most of these groups that are missing, we at least believe to be more favorable to Donald Trump. I mean, just from the smaller samples that we get, it's a good indication that they're more favorable to Donald Trump. So there is no real, what I'm trying to tell you is there is no high level of confidence right now. All right. I don't know why everyone's hiding this from people, Laura. I really, I know why.
Well, they want that bubble to still stay at the.
Oh, hold on. Let me bring. Yeah. I know what you're just, I know where she's going to. Laura's a little bit more cynical than me. All right. And she would tell a little more. She'll tell you that they're doing this on purpose, or at least they don't care because it really fits the narrative anyway. And they know what their clients want to see, so, and what I mean by that is the media outlets. They know what the media outlets want to see and they know what they believe. So if they bring them a result that to those people in the New York bureau chief, right? If it doesn't make sense, well, how could Donald Trump be that competitive? You'll upset your client. It's more than just a bias or anything. It's more like they reaffirming someone's bias. So the pollster already knows what the preconceived notions of the poll are with their client. And they, what Laura's saying is some of them, are less willing to give their own work more scrutiny because they know that that's satisfying to their clients. Okay. I don't know what else it could be. I don't know what else, honestly. I don't know what else it could be. The YouGov poll is a little bit inexplicable to me, Laura. It was just Biden by 5 among independents. Trump by 5 before the convention. They polled at the end and after the convention. Among independents, it is now Trump plus 10. Among the working class, he's clobbering Biden by 25 points. Among the non-working white, I don't mean non-working, the college-educated white, he's only ahead by a few points, Biden. I don't know how, without packing the sample, 41% Democrat, 30% Republican, ridiculously low percent independent. I don't know how else you could get that number. I would never do that. I don't know what to say. I would trash it. I would trash my own poll. I would. Look, she'll tell you I've done it before. It's simply unbelievable to me.
You're like, not enough.
Yeah, not enough. I missed somebody. I missed something. It's simply unbelievable to me. Start over. And if I do confirm it, and it's not statistical noise, there have been plenty of times where I extend the days. After 3 days, we're done. And I'm like, this looks nuts. Go run again, another day, another 48 hours, whatever. And if I can confirm it, then I'll relieve. But I have absolutely have put things on hold. Like 20% among black voters, I don't believe it. Keep going, or reach more people. So I don't know where they would. I just can't, folks. I don't know. I can't speak. I don't want to speak for what's in their heart. I don't want to speak for what's in their heart. But Laura, I really don't know how you could. Donald Trump won. I am a reluctant cynic. I saw that in the thing. I am. I guess I am. I'm a reluctant cynic. But Donald Trump won independence by 5 points in 2016. That's it, folks. Mitt Romney won him by 7. He just didn't win them where it counted. And he missed a whole lot of voters. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's possible that he could carry independents by that much if Democrats were to outvote Republicans by like 11 points. Even in 2018, that didn't happen. Independents just swung back to Democrats. I don't know, and I would like my own data too. It's 41-27. Thank you, Jack. I knew it was something nuts. I didn't have it in front of me, but I knew it was something totally off the wall. People.
But how can you explain that? Data doesn't make shifts like that.
Yeah, that's explained by response bias. So she said, "Go ahead, go ask that again." How do you explain it? What she said.
Well, what I'm saying to Jack's 41-27 split, it's like, how do you explain that? Because data doesn't just make a huge shift in that direction. It's just impossible. Data doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's response bias. So we just had the Democratic convention. If you see a dramatically high number of Democrats being more willing to participate in the survey, that's textbook response bias. That's it. End of story. And everybody knows that, folks. People know this. And this is what I'm saying with the problems that we're having this time, reaching certain groups of people. It's not a surprise. I talked to a vendor. She was like, can you tell me how you're doing these quotas? Right. We could do, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be helpful. Even though I get trashed by other people, I'm trying to be helpful. This is what I do. This is how it works for me. This is where I've run into problems if I do it like this. By problems, I mean the collection will slow down to the point where it's a trickle. How many interviews did you get tonight? 45. Something like it's a trickle.
And then sometimes.
And then. Yeah, and then but what I'm saying, when you're cranking up on all 20 to 30 channels, whatever you're firing for a single poll, and you got over, we'll do like 100-to-1 ratio, folks, on how many people get that email through the online panel, right? If we're calling, it's 100-to-1 ratio on how many records we pull from the voter file and how many, how many responses we hope to get. So we go big. And right away, what I'm telling you is the more liberal people are jumping to participate first and at higher rates, more, not just that they're coming first. They offset by a lot. So it is very typical to get 60-40 female in the raw data, even 65-35, and you have to keep going. What I'm telling you now is we are well above 70% women in these surveys, taking these surveys. That's crazy, and it needs to come down. It not only needs to come, you have got to figure out how to collect those other groups that you're missing. All right, and if you don't, then you're gonna reflect typical response bias in your poll, which is what I suspect YouGov is. I suspect it is. But I do want to talk about the interview with Joe Biden, all right, on ABC, Good Morning America. So let's take a quick 30-second break. When we come back, I also want to show a clip of Oliver Stone, one of my favorite directors, folks. Favorite directors is Oliver Stone. I love him. I do. I think he's a master of what he does, although I hardly agree with him on anything else. I think he's fantastic. We all have our areas of expertise, right? I know public policy. He knows how to direct a movie. All right. But he had a very interesting appearance with Bill Maher on Real Time on Friday. And there's a reason why I want to bring it up, because it's going to lead into something that we'll talk about with Biden's Good Morning America interview. Okay, so let's take a quick 30-second break. Be back. Also, some really solid news on the economic front. I want to get that into, and then and then we'll wrap that all up. And I'm going to go build a national survey questionnaire, okay? Or finish wrapping it up. We got a meeting. We got to go over it, kick some ideas around. There's some ways that I am going to extract the truth from people. All right.
You will not tell them.
The question wording is going to be there for everyone to see. But yes, I have tricks. I have tricks that I won't tell everybody, of course. All right. So, me. 30-second water break. Be back. All right, we're back. Listen, folks, don't forget to subscribe to the page, People's Pundit Daily, to get notified when Inside the Numbers is going to go live. Quick show announcement. Not this week, but next week. What are the odds is going to move to Mondays? Number one, I think it's easier for Barnes to do it on Mondays, and number two, I think that it's better to do on Mondays. I think it just makes more sense because we'll have stuff over the weekend to talk about. So we're going to do inside. What are the odds this week? I believe, as it stands right now, at the regular schedule time, Wednesday 2 p.m. But then we'll do it next Monday at 2 p.m. Same schedule time, but just on Monday. Okay. And then, of course, don't forget to like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Facebook. All right. And the best way to support the show is to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Again, like the page on YouTube and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get alerted when we're about to go live. Although we have been hearing a lot of complaints, it's not notifying you guys in time. Like you get it 30 minutes late. So I don't know what's going on there, but I can only imagine. And then like the page on Laura the Cynic, and then like the page on Facebook. All right. And help us get that blue check because we're in the news index, right? They took fact-checking schema from us and we don't have a blue check. Whatever. It is what it is. All right. So first, clips first. And I do want to make sure I leave enough time for economic data because it's important. All right. First things first. Oliver Stone this Friday goes on real time with Bill Maher. We had last week, although we didn't talk about it much with what was going on with the convention, we had the Senate Intelligence Committee's partisan report on Russia collusion, which drew all sorts of wild and crazy accusations about this one specific contact who the Senate Intelligence Committee just claimed was a Russian agent. It is not true. There's no basis in fact for it. What we did, and Robert Mueller just insinuated that he was in his report, but he was not able to confirm that either because we don't have confirmation of that, which the collusion crowd ran back to say, aha, I told you, right? What we do know about him is that he was a State Department source under the Clinton and Kerry State Departments. That's what we do know about this actor. All right. Anyway, Bill Maher tries to revive the Russia collusion thing with Oliver Stone. And I can't help but to think this is why they have not made any gains with the working class in this country. They haven't been talking to him at all. And it's just been a conversation to the woke kind of liberal and a shaming event, which is what I told you guys last week. That's what the Democratic National Convention sought to do. It sought to shame white, suburban, upper class metro women into voting against Donald Trump, not for Joe Biden, against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a bad person, of course. Have some dignity. And if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you have no dignity and you are, as it follows, a bad person. All right. And look, don't get mad at me for pointing out the obvious. They didn't make a rational policy argument. And then Bill Maher, instead of ranting and raving about what a great convention his party has, tries to rehatch the Russia hoax on Oliver Stone. Listen to Oliver's response.
Roger Stone organized the WikiLeaks dump 30 minutes after the Access Hollywood tape came out. You can't really think that a Russian president, the one that's in there now, should be able to rat fuck our elections like this, can you?
Oh, Bill, I think I known you too long. I think you're sophisticated enough to know that, well, you have to question everything that comes out of our intelligence agencies. If you haven't learned that by now, you've got a long way to go still. Because
so you think, so they're lying?
Intelligence agencies are not reliable. They've been screwing with America ever going back to Vietnam War, going back to the Iraq wars, the Afghani wars. It's very hard to find out the truth from them. And everything they publish, the rumors and all the anonymous sources, the think tanks, the anti-Russian, it all adds up into this ball of wax that becomes enormous. And then they have people like you who are skeptical generally believing it. I would really triple check everything, every one of those sources. What I read of it wasn't that specific. It wasn't that specific.
All right, so there you have Oliver Stone saying, Bill, come on, Bill. I've known you for a long time, man. You're too smart for this. Don't do this, And basically, I give you more credit than that, Bill. Come on. And this is what got me about this, because this is what has gotten me about the whole Russia collusion thing. What happened to the left being the natural skeptics of the intelligence community? So the hatred for Donald Trump has basically translated into blind obedience to the intelligence community that they have been so skeptical of for so many years. And by that, I mean in a good way. They were important voices in the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which led to the Vietnam War. They were important voices with the Iraq War, which unfortunately they lost that debate. They were important voices with expanding the power of the federal government in the FISA court. I don't understand how now, and I do understand, I guess just hatred is clouding reason. But they were the ones who were against the Patriot Act. They were the ones who were against metadata collection. They were the ones who were against the entire idea of having a secret spy court at which the defendant has no counsel and the government just gets to run roughshod over what is supposed to be a presumably innocent American citizen. They were the ones who were for due process instead of vaporizing people like Anwar al-Awlaki without a trial. He is a U.S. citizen. Al-Qaeda or not, you arrest him and you try him for treason or acts of terror. You don't vaporize him and his kid or his brother. What was it? Teenager. Without a trial. I mean, and now in the era of Donald Trump, Robert Mueller used to be a war criminal to the left. John Michael Bolton. Oh, when a man loves a woman. John Bolton was a war criminal. They wanted to try him at The Hague. The Slate wrote an opinion column about trying him at The Hague. And now there's this blind obedience toward the man. I really, for the life of me, I can't get it. I just can't. And Oliver Stone, that was just a great response because he was like, come on, Bill, enough, Bill. Nothing is specific. It's anonymously sourced. If you can't figure out by now what an intel smear or intel, information op looks like, then you still have a long way to go in political maturity. And I just thought it was a brilliant answer, which brings us to Joe Biden sitting down with David Muir on Good Morning America. And why does it bring it to us? Because of this blind acceptance of dangerous falsehoods. The president is a traitor. The president colluded with Vladimir Putin. The president said white supremacists were very fine people. I mean, there's a lot to argue over, with Trump's policy. I mean, you should not have to rely on these, they're not just lies. They're dangerous lies. They're lies that lead to the burning of Ferguson. They're lies that lead to the murder of police, to the burning of police departments in Minneapolis, to the fires that were set last night, the burning of car dealerships in Kenosha, Wisconsin, like last night. To innocent little children being mowed down next to their parents crossing the street in New York City. To 7-year-old boys getting blown away like we saw the other day, to 7-year-old little boys getting, chased and threatened and beaten for wearing MAGA hats.
This is disgusting.
It's disgusting. This is beyond, it's not just a lie. Politicians lie. They all lie. They all tell lies, right? It's irresponsible. They're lies that lead to a psychotic gunman who thought his president was a traitor and Republicans repealing Obamacare would lead to millions of Americans dying like they claimed on the floor of the U.S. Senate, to grabbing guns and mowing down Republican lawmakers as they practice for baseball in Virginia. And here we go again.
No president has ever used those words. And no president has said people coming out of fields with torches and spewing anti-Semitic bile and met by people who oppose them, and someone dies and he says they're good people on both sides. No president of the United States has ever said anything like that. Ever.
Hat tip Newsbusters, hat tip ABC News. You're right, Joe. No president has ever said that in this lifetime anyway. Not even Donald Trump, because he didn't say it either. I can't, because all week last week people were asking me. And you know who else has been really good on this, by the way, too? Scott Adams. He seems to really get it, like it's not just a lie. It's a dangerous lie that leads to violence against innocent citizens. Innocent civilians. People he supposedly, by the way, says he's going to unite. He's going to unite us by repeating a lie that the president praised white supremacist groups and called neo-Nazis very fine people. That's how he's going to unite us? Are you kidding me? But I'm laughing, but it's really not funny, because this is the stuff that leads to death, mayhem, destruction, and the wholesale burning of American cities, the beating up and persecution of people who hold views that you don't subscribe to. Because when you dehumanize your political enemies, folks like this, and you make them something as vile as a Nazi, then in fact doing violence against them isn't bad. It's not immoral. It is moral. It's virtuous, because you're taking a stand against evil. You're the hero in the story. That's
the heroes by taking them all and putting them.
Oh boy, I'm about to have to. Don't make me mute you, woman. Okay, I love.
But I want them to.
I love her passion.
Choices.
Yeah, what you? Yeah.
I want to round
Go
them
ahead.
up.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Say it.
What I want to say is this: let them live with their choices. Round them all up. All these lovely policymakers that just want to spew hatred. Put them dead center into the riots, and let's see how much, one, they don't like guns. All right. And then let's see how much they like living with the destruction that they make.
Amen, sister. Amen. Listen, I have a lot of, mostly Republican donors that call and ask my opinion on things. And we were talking about this issue specifically, right? Because there's a lot of housing data, which we'll get into later in the program. There's a lot of housing data that shows that Americans are fleeing these cities. So now we have real hard data to show that the people who create these environments, like Laura said, are the ones who are in fact now fleeing them and running to your neighborhoods. Okay? Your neck of the woods. And what Laura says, man, I totally agree with her, because one of the donors told me the other day, he was like, listen, this will never end until you force us to live with the consequences of our own actions, meaning, immigration. It will forever be pushed as an issue like that until you send them to our schools, our children's schools, right, Laura? Don't let us leave the cities that are burning. Don't let us. Don't get crazy on us, because
Gandalf on them.
You shall not pass. Right. I mean, that's what he was saying to us, that is really the only way here, that until they are forced to live with the consequences of their actions, they will always see themselves as morally superior, and they will virtue signal this country into the ground. All right. Into the ground, because you're giving them a way out. And now we do have, like I said, and we'll go over it. What is it, 10:45? We'll go over it in the next segment. It's clear as day. And we got comments, just so everybody could believe it. We got comments from the chief economist and National Association of Realtors, economists for the National Association of Home Builders, and they both say the same thing. These people are fleeing, and they are coming to your neck of the woods. All right. So, good luck with that. So I'm right there with you, Laura. I'm right there with you, because this is the thing. This again is like more than just lies. What town is going to burn next, folks? What town's going to burn next? Your town is going to burn next.
Not.
Well, ours is not going to burn. We'll tell you right.
Fight you.
Ours is not going to let that happen here. That's just not going to happen. But it will spread, is my point. All right. And David Muir, the weasel that he is, says nothing about it. And what I was saying before with Scott Adams is that we get asked this question all the time. Do you think Joe Biden knows about, because he's been lying a lot. I mean, he has been since the Democratic primary, not just about Donald Trump. He lied about other people. And nobody really fact checked him, although there was some like factcheck.org did some stuff on him, especially with the coronavirus response. Joe Biden's grand plan is to plagiarize Donald Trump's plan. What he has done so far is oppose what Donald Trump has done initially, only to reverse himself and then plagiarize his plan. And even factcheck.org called him out on it. He did. So rapid testing. Wow, Joe, you thought of that? What an amazing idea. Donald Trump's been doing it for weeks. He signed that order weeks ago, gave authorities to community-based centers like Walgreens and others that are typically not able to give and administer coronavirus testing. He gave that order, months ago. All right. So, but David Muir just sits there like a little weasel because he doesn't do his job. And this is a puff piece, right? One question he did press Kamala Harris on was how you could basically call Joe Biden a racist 6 months ago, and now you're running with him on the ticket. And she goes on this ridiculous tantrum and tirade, not tantrum, but ridiculous rant about how, you know what offends me, David? How blacks in urban centers are killed by the police at a high rate, how they're locked up. Unbelievable. This is the woman who would say this. She is the queen of locking up black and brown people. That is what destroyed her entire bid for the presidency. Let's play it again, just for everybody who doesn't remember.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
And keeps people in jail that she knows, which Tulsi Gabbard went on to say. We all have seen this clip before, right? So Tulsi went on to say, innocent people. She was like a mini Robert Mueller to protect her political allies and protect her political friends and protect her own agency. All right. She kept people in jail that she damn well knew were innocent and left them there. All right. So, for political expediency. So now she totally skates David Muir's question. He, like the little coward he is, refuses to follow up on it with her actual record, right? Deeds over words, right? And says nothing. So he let her get away with that. He let Joe Biden get away with the very fine people hoax, the dangerous hoax of very fine people crap. I'm telling you, I'm never going to let this go. If he keeps repeating it, I'm going to keep bringing it up. I'm never going to let it go. All right. It's just not. I'm just not. And then we move into the area of the coronavirus. All right. Joe Biden's big thing, his big interview was the takeaway was that he repeated the very fine people hoax. And he said flatly that he would shut down the economy again if he was told to by the experts. All right. Which would decimate us. We would be decimated, folks. All right. We would not be able to take another shutdown. All right. We've already lost permanent industries. Some of these businesses are gone. Our energy sector is on life support because of price collapsing before coronavirus even came to the forefront. And he said he would oppose a national mask mandate. And for those who have asked over the last week, right? And this is why I keep getting distracted, but Scott Adams thing, right? He's been good with this. He said, there's only two plausible answers. There's only two potential outcomes, right? Or two potential answers to this question. I get all the time, do you think Joe Biden knows he's lying? Or do you think Joe Biden just repeats what his team tells him to repeat? I can tell you the white liberal, the establishment DC white liberal, and generally now, right, the woke white liberal, believes everything that is spoon-fed to them by the media, everything. So, but at this point now, we've had the man launch his campaign video with the Very Fine People hoax at the center of it. Last week, he gave his acceptance speech to the Democratic National Convention and straight said that the pivotal moment where he decided that he was going to run was when someone showed him Donald Trump said very fine people about white supremacists. So a hoax is the entire justification for him running, which I think he made a major political miscalculation by admitting that. And he had the entire week or the rest of the week, Saturday, and then up to this interview on Sunday, to know and to see that what he is saying is false. Even Jake Tapper said it's false. Even Jake Tapper on CNN said that that's not what Donald Trump was taught. Donald Trump specifically condemned. He said the neo-Nazis and other white supremacist groups, I'm not talking about them, they should be condemned totally, in quotes. That is what he said. Even Jake Tapper admitted it. You're telling me he had days to mull this over, and yet he doesn't know when he sits down with David Muir that what he is saying again is a lie? I don't believe it. I just don't. I don't know. And I think the guy's senile, but I just don't believe somebody could be that bubbled up, Laura. I just don't believe it. And then
I challenge Joe Biden.
Oh boy. He's not going to listen to Donald Trump's challenge. He's not going to listen to you.
Joe Biden to just come out with no teleprompter and actually get real questions thrown at him. And I guarantee you the man will crumble so quickly that it'll be over and done.
I think that honestly, he got away with the hiding throughout the summer. Mm-hmm. I don't think he can go through the fall, especially with the coronavirus numbers heading in the direction they are heading. I don't think, which is going to lead us into this next clip. It's just unbelievable. He would even talk about shutting down the economy at this point with the numbers where they are. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
I should also add no earpiece.
No earpiece. Yeah. Well, but I don't think he can get away with hiding through the rest of the fall. And I think the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, made a very good point on Fox with Waters the other day. He said, you know, when he gets out there, I think you're going to see this campaign basically crumble. Well, they're going to try to keep him from getting out there. And Laura, I challenge you. He's going to try, folks, mark my words. He can make these snarky little comments all he wants when asked about debating. They will try to get him out of these debates. They already refused. The Presidential Debate Commission already admitted it. They refused to debate before anybody started casting votes anyway. Donald Trump said, fine, you don't want to have to add another debate? That's fine. Let's just scoot them up a little bit. And the Presidential Debate Commission, released a statement. I mean, this happened. They're going to try to get out of the debates that are existing and scheduled right now. Mark my words. Mark my words. And they already are, because you can see the media dipping their toe in the water to try to see what the temperature is on this, right? They're writing all these columns. You know what? It's Joe Biden shouldn't dignify Donald Trump with a debate. You know, like that's what they're doing. You know, this word dignify, the various uses of this word, dignity. Right? That has been unreal. But anyway, let's get into the shutdown thing. Here's David Muir bringing up the what Joe Biden would do in the event that he was president and to handle coronavirus, because it shows you how none of this makes any sense. If Donald Trump's responsible for destroying the economy. All right, well, let's just play it.
Sworn in come January, and we have coronavirus and the flu combining, which many scientists have said is a real possibility. Would you be prepared to shut this country down again?
I would be prepared to do whatever it takes to save lives, because we cannot get the country moving until we control the virus. That is the fundamental flaw of this administration's thinking to begin with. In order to keep the country running and moving and the economy growing and people employed, you have to fix the virus. You have to deal with the virus.
Okay, so they want to argue that it's Donald Trump's fault that the economy got, railroaded by this pandemic, and that it wouldn't have happened under him, and he'll build back better, whatever the hell that means, right? But his answer is to plagiarize Donald Trump's actions and his plans. I mean, copy and paste, baby, copy and paste. I mean, right off. That is what he did. He listened to the experts to shut it down, and then he shut it down another 15 days. The governors and the mayors, they got cover from the White House coronavirus task force because that was the recommendation out of the coronavirus task force. So this is a classic case of politicians wanting to have their cake and eat it too, right? That's the expression, right? In other words, he would have done nothing differently. The only difference would be that there would be less pro-growth economic policies in place to help rescue us in time. So it would essentially be worse than it is now. And but what he was specifically saying to David Muir there is that he would do it again. He would devastate us. He would devastate us. There would be, and not just him, any decision to lock this economy down again, which was never done never done in the history of the world. Never done in the history of the world. Quarantines are for sick people. Quarantines are for sick people. This is not a national quarantine. It never happened before. It was an ahistorical event. And the idea, Laura, frankly, our hubris is totally out of control. We can now stop the climate from evolving. The planet. We can now stop planetary evolutions, and we can hide from viruses. We can outsmart the virus. This is really crazy, man. Aristotle would have a field day with us. He would have a field day with us. The virus numbers, that's right, D, they really can't go any lower. The goalposts have now shifted from slowing the spread, 15 days to slow the spread. So what was the entire purpose of that? If you guys remember, it was to make sure that the public healthcare system in this country did not collapse. It was never to ensure that nobody would be infected by coronavirus. Then it was 30 days, 15 more to slow the spread. Then it was to stop the spread, as if we were going to be able to stop a virus from making its way through the population. That is absolutely ludicrous. Ludicrous. There has never been a pandemic where you could stop the spread. Pandemics work themselves through the population. They unfortunately impact more vulnerable people the most. So the idea that we could protect the vulnerable was, there was always things we could have done to do that. All right. But the numbers that, the so-called second wave, and now even Fox with a third wave, 17 students is not a third wave. The flu is still more deadly to people under the age of 25 than coronavirus is. Pneumonia is even more deadly. We never shut down schools when there's a bad flu season, which will no doubt take more children. If you wanted to protect the vulnerable, you probably should not have sent infected individuals back to nursing homes. Those deaths should not even be registered as coronavirus deaths. They should be registered as democide, because that was death by government. Government policy caused those people to contract coronavirus and sadly succumb to the virus. That's the sad truth about it. That's just the way it is.
But how do you get immunity to this virus? You have to be exposed. Otherwise, it starts to mutate, and then you get a super virus. And then what? Are we fighting again into a hole? Okay. Does that work out?
Right. Well, I mean, look, this thing is already mutated quite a bit. That's why there's never been a successful vaccine for a coronavirus, because they happen to mutate quite a bit. I mean, that's just, and the Fox News, they bring back over the weekend, they bring back this other lockdown idiot who was proven to be a complete fool, projected millions of deaths. They bring him back to say that there's no such thing as herd immunity. I mean, this consensus, that was always the case, that it was a fake consensus, because the voices of people who opposed this lockdown were muted to begin with. There was never really a consensus on a lot of this stuff. It was a faux consensus. They just elevated the voices of people who wanted to see this happen, and they muted the voices of others who had more responsible and measured. I would call it measured, because this was never an argument about public health and money versus money. The economy is an argument about health. And by the way, there was not an uninterrupted period of growth under Barack Obama. The first quarter was a throwaway quarter. It was negative twice for under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And he had the weakest recovery as far as GDP since the Great Recession. He never hit 3% growth annually. And the first full year of above 2% quarterly growth was only achieved under Donald Trump after the Great Recession. All right. And we've gone over this before. I mean, you guys want to play with numbers all you want, but the fact of the matter is the falling unemployment rate under Barack Obama was a methodological gimmick from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and how they conduct the household survey or employment situation, known more commonly to you as the monthly jobs report. Unemployment will fall as people exit the labor force. Under Barack Obama, some of it, not all of it, was contributed to an aging population. Okay. We were told that all these boomers were leaving and retiring and it would just never go back up to 63. It did go back up to 63 under Donald Trump. The employment population ratio, which is equally and actually arguably more important than the labor force, the more cited labor force participation rate, also increased and touched that 61 threshold where it could not under Barack Obama. That was a giving up on the American dream under Barack Obama, which is why wages never rose. A tight labor market is when you see initial jobless claims and the insured unemployment rate. The former falls below 300,000. The latter starts touching around the 1-2%. Barack Obama would have cut his left arm off to get 1.2% insured unemployment rate. Instead, it wasn't. I mean, we have the charts. We've showed you the charts. You can look at it yourself. It was a methodological gimmick under Barack Obama, and wages didn't grow because those weren't real paying jobs. That was a part-time economy, a garbage service sector, part-time leisure and hospitality economy. The gap between rich and poor expanded. It did not narrow. Under Donald Trump, that gap shrunk at a pace that never before under Barack Obama. Wages were rising for non-supervisory, non-meaning workers. Okay, for what that means. It's not a manager. It's not the boss. Wages were rising at a faster pace for them than they were for the wealthy. And that's backed up by the Bureau of Economic Analysis, by the way, if you want to cut into that. Personal income was revised because they do annual revisions to show that Barack Obama's income gains were actually even less than they thought they were initially.
So in other words,
it's not comparable. It's not comparable. Donald Trump inherited the weakest recovery since the Great Recession. That's why, and you want to tell yourself lies, knock yourselves out. But that's why you're at 27% with the working class, because you refuse to believe empirical evidence. You're impervious to empirical evidence. I'm not here to cheerlead for Donald Trump. If it was under Bernie Sanders, I would be cheerleading it. It's the American economy. It's people's lives we're talking about. I don't care that it's Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders. Barack Obama was the worst economic president since actually, George Bush, he's a coward too. He did nothing about the underlying causes for that crisis that hit us all. He knew about it. They knew it was going to happen. Hank Paulson knew it. George Bush tried sending Hank Paulson to the Congress twice to tell Chris Dodd and Barney Frank that they were about to destroy the American economy. Twice. But I still blame George Bush because he didn't push them hard enough. He could have went to the microphone. He has the bully pulpit did have the bully pulpit of the presidency. He himself could have went to the microphone and said, the Community Reinvestment Act is going to destroy our economy. It's a noble cause that every American own a home, but it's not feasible. And listen, I don't even blame banks and mortgage houses for that. I've been in that industry. I know how it works. You should have known, just like government, you should know that Wall Street is greedy, just like government is power hungry. You should have known that was going to happen. They had to do something with that toxic debt. They had to do something with those toxic securities. So they bundled them. That made the situation worse, no doubt. But they had to do something with it. All right. So we're going to take a 2-minute break. I'm way over the time, but I want to get to economic data and stick around. Stick around, because you're about to see the difference between the Trump economy and the Obama economy. It wasn't even close. We're going to hit one sector when we come back. All right. So listen, folks, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube page right now on Inside the Numbers. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook. Best way to support the show, of course, is to subscribe to PPD, ppdnews.us/subscribe. Let's blast through the economy when we come back. And then I'm going to tell you my closing thoughts, what you can expect differently from the Republican National Convention than you got from the Democratic National Convention. All right. All the best. In 2 minutes, 20 seconds is the Grammy considered Bowen Band.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Love, we were just saying how much we love that song. That is the Grammy-nominated, Grammy-considered Bowen Band. All right, so check them out. It's linked in the YouTube. If you have a band that you think should deserve some attention, all right, then send it on over to contact@peoplespunditdaily.com. Contact@peoplespunditdaily.com. Laura or I or both will listen to it, and we'll put it up if we think it's good. But this is the People's Pundit show, Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, not Inside the Numbers with Tinseltown. So don't send me your favorite band because they get enough attention, right? All right. Or unless your favorite band is somebody who doesn't and should, right? Anyway, U.S. housing market is booming, exceeding pre-pandemic levels. And by the way, post-pandemic expectations, what everybody thought before the pandemic shutdown was over, what could happen with the housing market coming back. This is a recap. As you all know, we cover every indicator like we did with the Chicago Fed National Activity Index. So basically, we wanted to recap everything that we were covering from the housing market because it's notable. All right. Economic indicators widely show the U.S. housing market is booming. That's in quotes because it's not our word. That is the word of Yoon at the National Association of Realtors, surpassing pre-pandemic levels and expectations. Experts now foresee housing leading the economic recovery and have raised growth forecasts for the sector. On Friday, the National Association of Realtors reported existing home sales posting another record gain in July. The key housing market indicator rose 24.7% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 5.86 million, surpassing the previous record that was just set in June. Let your attention be drawn now to the chart. Okay? That is a V-shaped recovery. All right? That is what it looks like. And in fact, it is above pre-pandemic levels. The housing market is well past the recovery phase and is now booming with higher income sales compared to the pre-pandemic days. Lawrence Yoon, the chief economist at National Association of Realtors, said, with the sizable shift in remote work, current homeowners are looking for larger homes, and this will lead to a secondary level of demand even into 2021. You will notice, folks, that line is higher than it was before we entered the pandemic. While existing home sales for the month of June were revised down slightly by 0.5% to 20.2, that still serves as until this month, the highest ever recorded. These back-to-back records far surpassed economists' expectations and followed after 3 straight months of declines because of not the pandemic itself, but the mitigation efforts to slow, then stop, then eradicate, then hide from the spread of the coronavirus. Existing home sales are now up 8.7% from a year ago. Excuse me. All right. 8.7% were up year over year. All right. And this is the annual rate for July of 2019. Yoon added, the number of new listings is increasing, but they are quickly taken out of the market from heavy buyer competition. More homes need to be built. Well, home builders to the rescue, folks. On Monday, the National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index, otherwise known as the HMI, reported builder confidence unexpectedly rose another 6 points to 78 in August. That matches the all-time high and beat the consensus forecast. I will now draw your attention to the chart. Okay, that is a V-shaped recovery. All right. Now, not all indicators, especially in labor, unfortunately, because of that stupid policy in the CARES Act, not all indicators are showing the bounce back we had hoped for. Although I hope last week was just a minor blip and we fall right back down to around 900 and change. All right. Anyway, this is the entire series indicator for the chart, the housing market index. All right. I want you to take note here. This was essentially a flatlining trend. All right. Here is where 2018 started to slow down. Why am I saying this? Robert Dietz over at the National Association of Home Builders says this. Housing has clearly been a bright spot during the pandemic, and the sharp rebound in builder confidence over the summer has led that National Association of Home Builders to upgrade its forecast for single-family starts, which are now projected to show only a slight decline for 2020. I'm not even sure they will by the time this is over, but I see why his forecast is only showing a tiny decline. All right. During the period of strong economic growth under the Trump administration, housing remained the only sector still underperforming. By the end of 2019 and the start of 2020, it appeared the U.S. economy would finally be firing on all 4 cylinders. The HMI started 2020 at a 20-year high. In January, builder confidence in the market for newly built single-family homes edged down just 1 single point to 75 from the December 2019 level. The 2 readings for the months back-to-back were still the highest sentiment levels since July of 1999. July of 1999. But that was before the shutdown efforts to mitigate the coronavirus pandemic, which only briefly shook builder confidence. The closely watched HMI signals sustainability for the boom in the housing market. Indeed, new home sales are now being built at breakneck pace. So, as Yoon said before, the houses are going on the market, they're being sucked right off, and then we need new homes to be built. That's the answer. Well, good, because they are. New residential construction statistics for housing starts and building permits skyrocketed in July, despite lingering effects due to coronavirus. The former gained 22.6%, and the latter 18.8%, respectively. New home sales soared 13.8% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 776,000 in June. That easily beat the consensus forecast and is the highest level for new home sales since before the Great Recession, July 2007. The month of May was revised up from 672,000 to 682,000. New home sales have shown a little impact due to the pandemic response and are now 6.9% higher than they were in June of 2019, which was 726,000. I now draw your attention once again to the chart, okay? It's up to June here, but what is that, folks? What letter does that form? All right? What I'm telling you here is it really was not, it was having a very hard time in this chart. Really have to go to the year to date to see it, right? Clear as day right there. But it was really having a hard time getting up. This is a very volatile report. You can see wide swings one month and then downturns the next. All right. But all in all, actually, it's been surprisingly steady and solid throughout the year, even though we've had the coronavirus response. Why does this matter? Because while the labor market indicators are being a little bit stubborn, even though the monthly employment jobs report has been fine and earlier than expected, we're seeing these big numbers. Initial jobless claims still are being stubborn. People would not be buying and building like this if they truly expected their long-term situation to deteriorate. Pending home sales surged more than 3 times the consensus forecast by 16.6% in June, after soaring a record 44.3% in May. These are unheard of numbers, by the way, folks. Unheard of. Year over year, contract signings are now up again, 6.3%. The pending home sales index for July is due out next week, but that meant this week. But as a result of the stronger than expected recovery and growth in the pending home sales index, the PHSI, and the broader housing market, the NAR raised its forecast on this as well. Here is the pending home sales index. I will, for the last time, draw your attention to the graph. That is a V-shaped recovery. That is a V. Okay? So we now, though, have real data, too, and we're talking about this with them over the weekend, that people are leaving the, They're leaving the crisis areas, which is actually how they were referring to them, and racing towards more non-metro suburban and rural areas. So people are bailing out of the cities, and they are looking for small town America. That is extremely important for obvious reasons when we're talking about the vote, okay? There is plenty of evidence to show that people who vote the way they do and destroy basically their own states and neighborhoods absolutely will come back and will move and vote the same way when they get to an area that they're seeking refuge in. All right. Lastly, real quick, before we get to M. Joseph Smith's column and what I can tell you to expect from the Republican National Convention that I know, okay, here we go. The Chicago Fed National Activity Index. It slowed a little bit, folks, but it still showed, this is there, that's why it's in quotes, not our statement, it's theirs, well above average growth in July. June, which was a booming number, soared even higher, okay? The 3-month average now is back in positive territory. All right. Without regurgitating what I just said, it came in at plus 1.18 in July after an initially reported plus 4.11, which was revised even higher to plus 5.33. That was led, again, like it was last month, by production and employment-related indicators. All right. So in other words, manufacturing, mining, utilities, industrial production, that all rebounded strongly, as did certain employment indicators, and that is what's fueling the Chicago Fed National Activity Index. Last month, it was big. It was heavy. So now it's more moderate this month, but still well above average, right? So we saw, 5 million jobs created in the month prior, so that's why it boomed. And the CFNAI is plus 533. This month was 2 million, almost 1.5, something like that. So, but we're looking at it's still, about, like I said, they characterized it correctly. It's above average, but it's a more moderate pace than it was the month before. All right. The diffusion index, also a 3-month moving average, increased to plus 0.62. That's up from plus 0.14. As a 3-month moving average, it's obviously going to take some time and lag. It was deeply negative before because of the shutdown. All right. Real quick, 56 of the 85 component indicators contributed positively to the index. 29 posted negative contributions. 25 indicators improved from June to July, and 60 deteriorated. Of those indicators that improved, only nine made negative contributions. So the difference there is what I was just telling you about before. All right, that basically they were booming last month. So while they deteriorated, that doesn't mean they were negative. It simply means it was more moderate growth. And still by moderate, I mean above average. All right. Again, to restate that, the CFNAI was based on data that was available as of August 20th. At that time, they had enough data for 51 of the 85 indicators. The rest will be estimates. That is why you will see it revised. You'd be shocked how many economic indicators do stuff like this, by the way, folks. All right. Let's look at the 1 year real quick. You can clearly see what, again, is a V-shaped recovery in this index. All right. And you can clearly actually see that there was not going to be a damn slowdown in the first quarter if the stay-at-home orders were not imposed. The Bureau of Economic Analysis wrote that in their press release, and yet still some people will not tell the truth. Those initial stay-at-home orders were issued at the end of the first quarter, and they killed the economy. And that is why we came in at -5 GDP. It is the first negative first quarter under Donald Trump. It is the first weak first quarter under Donald Trump. Under Barack Obama, first quarters, like I said before, were often throwaway quarters. They were weak. So weak, it took the rest of the year to raise the growth and the forecast. Under Donald Trump, he only had 1 weak first quarter, and that was the quarter that included the one he took over from Barack Obama. His first full quarter was strong. All right. Anyway, that's the end of that. Let's move on to M. Joseph Shepard's column. All right, because we'll use that and then we'll kind of like roll into what I'm going to tell people about the RNC and what to expect. What's going to be different about the Republican National Convention than you saw in the Democratic National Convention. All right, but this is a noteworthy column. I wanted to write it myself. I've just been so busy that I couldn't. So I'm glad that Mike decided to write this. All right. So he's tracking the betting odds, all right, the gambling odds, like we do on What Are the Odds, right, with Barnes and Barris. Smart money. Vegas takes Fright and Flight at Biden-Harris chances. Election betting odds moved against Biden amid his VP selection and the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. That doesn't happen, folks. Vegas, using the term as a synonym to describe the 7 betting odd firms aggregated by Real Clear Politics, has looked at Joe Biden's announcement of Senator Kamala Harris and as his running mate and doesn't like what it sees. President Donald Trump was leading Mr. Biden when the election betting odds calculation commenced in March. That might have been expected pre-COVID when the economy was roaring along. Mr. Biden took the lead on June 2nd when all COVID hell broke loose. Again, as might have been expected. Mr. Biden's lead reached its current zenith at 24.6 points on August 1st at 61%. To 36.4 for Donald Trump. Since then, it has been a literal ski slope downward trajectory for Mr. Biden, as the Real Clear Politics graph below clearly shows. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into it, but this methodology or way of gauging events over a period of time, he's poking fun a little bit at some of the prognosticators on election forecasters and prognosticators who blew 2016 pretty badly. And he says, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. Let's use your methodology. The turning point appears to have been President Trump's July 4th address at Mount Rushmore. And when I first read that and I was editing a column, I'm like, that's weird. You know, I mean, really, was it that big of an event? Was it that key of an event? Well, according to people who put their money where their mouth was, there's clearly some change there. This is the chart right here. Here's the month of July. And you can clearly see from there was a turning point before it rebound because the coronavirus pandemic talk re-kicked into gear. And then, but the trend has been clear since then. All right. The president came across as singularly focused and patriotic, a stark contrast to Mr. Biden's basement tapes. That also coincided with the president's steady rise in polling and, more importantly, the closing of the gap between him and Mr. Biden in the battleground states. Listen, I just want to point this out to everybody on Twitter who keeps saying, it's over, it's never been this bad. I've been over this a million times with you guys on the national level. It has been this bad, and presidents have still won. Donald Trump is one of the examples. The polling for him was horrible in the summer of 2016. And in fact, the polling in the battleground states alone, and the last time I looked over the weekend when I was doing this column, it's about 1.5 points better for Trump than it was collectively. I'm talking about the aggregate battleground averages. They are about 1.5 points better for Donald Trump against Joe Biden than they were against Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. So you're just wrong. You're just wrong. All right. As it stands as of writing, and remember, Vegas is fluid, Mr. Biden's lofty 24.6 point lead has cratered to just 12.4 points. And in fact, it was falling so precipitously when he wrote this column and submitted it to go through the editorial process. That was not as low. It was several tenths of a percentage points better in favor of Biden. And we had to contact him and say, listen, he fell since, so we're going to adjust this in your article. The lowest point since June 20th. Again, Mr. Biden's lofty lead is cratered to its lowest point since June 20th. More to the point, it was 19.6% on Kamala Day, which was August 11th, the day that he announced the choice of Kamala Harris as his running mate. It was 15.2% at the start of the Democratic National Convention. Clearly, there has been no betting bounce for Mr. Biden from either his vice presidential selection or perhaps the most worrying for his team since the end of the convention and his acceptance speech to the nation. President Trump's odds were at their lowest point at just 36% on July 20th. It now stands at 43.1%. Prior to the 2020 Republican National Convention and his acceptance speech, which will be conducted from the White House, which is important, and I will tell you about on the flip side of the break when we talk about the convention. If he has even a decent convention, the lines in the graph may well cross again, a position Mr. Biden would not wish to be in as the real season of the election commences. This was a fantastic article. I had to share it with you. Hat tip, Mike, again. It's on PPD if you want to read it again and go through some of the numbers. Very, very interesting. So Biden's only headline with the bounce is about his favorability rating, getting a 5-point bounce. Favorability is not a bounce. A bounce is a lead, an expanding lead. That's a bounce. And it would be reflecting in the betting odds. It's not. Not only has there been no bounce, he has gone down. And we talked about this on one of the odds with Barnes and Barris last week. I don't know any other. We're digging election betting odds and, playing the game as we do now in the modern era has not been around so long, but going over what we have gone over, Joe Biden is the only candidate we can find who actually cratered during his convention. It just simply doesn't happen. Even if it's just a slight increase. And by the way, that Trump chance right there at 43.1, that was outdated. It's now 44 something, I believe. All right. So, that's just simply no bueno. It's not good because now the president and the incumbent, actually it's 43.7 right now. 43.7, just to give everybody the most accurate, most recent thing. So Trump has now climbed another 0.6 of a percentage point. Okay. So it's worse for Biden than it was even when was this published? On Saturday? All right. You needed that. He needed that kind of momentum headed on out because the incumbent always gets the last say. The incumbent gets the bottom of the ninth. All right. They get the inning. They get the bottom. They get the bottom of the inning. All right. That is the way it is. It's been like that. And that's the way it is this year. This is not good news. They can do what they want, but I think, and Mike said something that I think is very telling. The most telling thing about the polling right now is the lack of it. If there was a huge bounce, you would be seeing these numbers right now. They'd be flooding the Monday headlines. There's been a few. They have not been convincing. Morning Consult showed no bounce. Even though he still is a lead, he showed no bounce. And now we're heading into Trump's turn. So with that, let's take a real quick 30-second break. Let's hammer the RNC, and I'll be back in 30 seconds. I tried to sneak in that coffee sip at the last minute. All right, listen, back to the RNC. Let's just get into it because time is wasting. All right, and I got a questionnaire to make. Because of what I just told you, the media will slam the Republican National Convention. It will be nonstop negative punditry, nonstop negative opinion columns launching on the daily. All right? Tomorrow morning, expect this was awful because this is going to be awful because they have no choice. The momentum is moving against their guy. They know damn well even a 5-point bounce for Trump is a problem because the disparity between the Electoral College and the national popular vote. As I have gone over, and I am not going to do exhaustingly again, I can't wait for the census to come out to confirm everything I've been telling you. It is only going to grow. Even if Joe Biden wins this election in November, the disparity between the Electoral College and the battleground states, in the battleground states, represented by the battleground states, and the popular vote will grow. Why? Because California doesn't look anything like the rest of the country anymore. Because New York City doesn't look anything like the rest of the country anymore. And that's actually going to get worse if you look at the real estate data that we were just talking about. Basically, I think the vote will be more lopsided there because you'll have more conservative people fleeing. All right? And they'll be fleeing to other rural and non-metro suburban areas, which will widen the Republicans' margins there. And you will see the blue margins widen out in the blue areas. They have jam-packed their big populous states with decades and decades of immigrant populations that tend to vote Democrat. It's just a reality. And it will continue to grow. And I showed you even what the census gave us as like a whistle wetter, right? Where this is what educated voters look like now, as opposed to just 10 years ago. All right. They're not the same voting bloc that Mitt Romney tried to woo in 2012. They're not even the same from 2016. And they're damn sure not the same from 2008, 4, or 2000. So there's a lot more to this whole shift in trend than people would expect. And just to get into dirt dolls, I'm just going to answer that question real quick. I think that there are a handful of districts that are more to the right of California 25, where if Republicans have the success that they've had in these last two special elections, which actually showed a rightward shift since 2018, then there are other districts that they could take back. But as we all know how it works in California, it's a third world kind of election, and they will continue counting votes for a month if they have to. And they will oust freshman congresswomen who have actually been sworn into Congress 4 weeks after she's been declared the winner. It has not been done, Laura. In 2018, what you saw with these races was absolutely historic. It has never happened in the history of elections before like this. Have we had one-off things where there were unresolved counting issues? Yes, but never like this. Never mass problems, mass whole, regions of the country, one state that can't count votes like this. So what differently? Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, statistically, though, that poor woman, what she went through, it. How can I say this? Statistically, it couldn't happen. The vote could not go such left versus right. The numbers are wrong.
Talking about young Kim, and what she means is what we saw in 2018 is that you already know what the margin is in in-person vote. You already know what the margin is in the mail-in vote, absentee ballots, in-person early, right? Whatever the category of vote is, you already know what the margin is. So if somebody is leading by several percentage points on election day, that's thousands and thousands of votes in a district like that. All right, a handful, but when the district's 200,000, 2,500, 3,500 vote lead is very difficult to overturn. It's very difficult. And what happened to her is not only did the ballots keep coming in, but they kept coming in at a break rate for Democrats that did not comport with the ones that were already calculated. And it didn't make any sense. It just didn't make any sense. And that happened in a lot of places. That's how Sinema overtook McSally, by the way. And when we actually investigated that, we were able to find out what accounted for it. Democrats voted in person in their precincts in Maricopa County for 3 days early, while Republicans did what traditionally occurs in Maricopa. That's their own damn fault, though, Laura. I mean, they should have seen that coming. Yes. And the Maricopa County recorder, he was able to do that with his authority. There's no statewide standardization of early vote in that state. That is their own damn fault. They have run that state for a long time. Democrats, she was the first one to win a statewide office in years, Laura, years. So it was their own fault. And actually, Al Franken was another great example how those ballots came in ridiculously late, found in someone's trunk, and yet somehow the votes breaking 65-35 for Democrats in these same ballot categories, in these same demographic regions, in these same precincts, all on election day. Yet the ones that miraculously appear are breaking 85-15. It does. I mean, you really have to be an idiot to believe that stuff. Really, you have to be born yesterday. All right. Which Barack Obama himself caught on tape, admitted happens in 2012 when asked a question about how do we know Republicans won't steal this election? And he said, well, it's a good thing we control the machines because I'm from Chicago, folks. Anyway, what's going to be different about the RNC convention? The DNC was painful to watch. In fact, nobody watched it. All right. The only ones who did, if you look at the markets, were woke liberals. They did not speak to that middle class that they're trailing badly with. That we went over what the intent of the DNC was last week, and I'm not going to go over it again. All right. The RNC is going to do things differently. There is some stuff that Trump supporters may not like. In fact, but I actually disagree with some of them and think that they were smart decisions. Nikki Haley, for instance. Nikki Haley is running for president in 2024. I know donors who she has been in their home and have told them point blank, I will not run against Trump. I'm going to be seen as an ally, but in the middle, and that I'm going to be running in 2024. All right. She is a good slot. I just wouldn't gear the convention toward her. It's just a way of saying that, you know what, an affluent, educated woman who successful, who is not seen as a radical, like, the Democratic Party tries to paint Donald Trump as, it's all right to vote for. It's all right. The point of her being there is to testify about his leadership style, because they did have a good relationship, even though she didn't agree with him very much, to testify about his leadership style, the effectiveness of it, and also to tell those people where they were shaming last week, don't be ashamed. It's okay to agree with me. All right. Look, I do it, and that's her point. Now, they are adding speakers as things go. I don't think the idea of adding someone like Candace Owens is a great idea. I think it's a total waste of time. I know you're trying to reach out to people. The better way to reach out to Black voters is this speech. Alice Johnson would be much more effective and, in fact, is going to speak. I just would have given Alice Johnson a more featured primetime speech. For those who don't know, the First Step Act, criminal justice reform, she was one of the faces of it. She was one of the, the story about a grandmother, first-time offender, who was locked up for selling drugs, for making a mistake to keep her family afloat. And Donald Trump commuted, right? Didn't pardon. He didn't pardon. He commuted her sentence, right? And so she was going to do the rest of her life in jail. Barack Obama refused to pardon Alice Johnson, just like he refused to pardon somebody give me the name of the boxer. I forgot. The heavyweight champion of the world posthumously, but he did. So if he wants to make that argument, he could do it so a lot more effective. No offense to Candace Owens. She just doesn't speak to the voters that they're trying to woo. Alice Johnson speaks to that community, that African-American community. Candace Owens is not seen like, look, Chief James, that's from the ghetto of Indianapolis. He is a conservative from the ghetto of Indianapolis. He speaks for that group of voters. He speaks their language. He's from there. That is a voice. Something, and now he's not a well-known voice, but ask him his thoughts on the effectiveness of Candace Owens' effectiveness at convincing members of his family not to vote for the Democratic Party. It's not effective. I'm sorry. It's not effective. It's just not. Now, Alice Johnson, you have the Kim Kardashian, Kanye West connection. If you guys don't know, Kim Kardashian fought like a pit bull to get this woman out of prison. And she's the one who got the meeting with Donald Trump. She's the one who told Donald Trump Alice Johnson's story. You will get a speech, by the way. What will you expect from? You will see Donald Trump every night. All right. Donald Trump is his best cheerleader, and he is the cheerleader for the American people better than anybody. And that is smart. He will not be hiding it out. And perhaps most importantly, because he said something, it wasn't covered by the media, but it was at his campaign stop. And he said, where Joe Biden sees darkness, American darkness. And he said, where Joe Biden sees darkness in America, I see greatness. Right? So it was like a really effective response. That is what Donald Trump is going to say this week. All right? Where you can't have it both ways. The way that you either love your country and support it and try to strive to be a more perfect union, which is safe and prosperous, or you hate it and you see darkness and a place that's evil. You can't have both. And he's going to give his acceptance speech at the White House, which is why his wife has been just, the rose garden looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. That, but what he's doing is invoking Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He is the last incumbent president to give his acceptance speech from the White House. Why do I think this is a smart move? Because in order to win, Donald Trump is going to have to convince the American public what Franklin Delano Roosevelt convinced the American public, which is that, yes, we've been through a lot. Yes, it's hard. Things need to get better. But under me, I am looking out for you. I will move us forward. I am your champion. Stick with me and we'll get through it. And in the end, voters did not blame Franklin Delano Roosevelt for what happened. And they stuck with him. I don't think Donald Trump could ever be as beloved as Franklin Delano Roosevelt was to the country. They saw him as a father figure. He was the closest thing to a monarch the country had ever seen before. He actually, unlike Donald Trump, really did refuse to leave office, tried to back the Supreme Court to make sure he could get people to rule in his favor with the Great Society reforms. But in the end, he needs to invoke the spirit of FDR. And I mean that in that FDR is the president who told us the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Joe Biden is saying, I'm afraid of every viral particle and I'll shut the economy down. He has to make that comparison because Democrats are, like I said earlier in the show, they're making it's unfair, but it's a smart political argument. They're blaming him or trying to cast the blame on the economy on Donald Trump. And then they're also trying to say that he's too irresponsible to handle the pandemic. So which one is it? You either want to shut it down or you want to open it up. responsibly. You cannot have it both ways. And the fear factor was on full display during the Democratic convention. Donald Trump is going to invoke FDR, and he's going to say more along the lines of, we're Americans. We can do this, like FDR did. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And he's going to make a juxtaposition against the fear porn that you heard at the Democratic National Convention. And then he's also going to do, even though the speech is not done from what I hear, he's also going to do, I just don't know how much of it, what I said he has got to do. He has got to convince the public, who doesn't like to make change during a presidential election. They want to keep their guy if they think their guy is doing a decent job. They don't like to change hands in the middle of they don't like to change hands in the middle of the game.
You don't fix what's not broken.
You don't fix what's not broken. That's how truly persuadable Americans do approach presidential elections. He's got to convince them, I'm your guy, stick with me. Let's keep moving forward. We're progressing. We've had hard times, but we have to keep moving forward. I will take you forward. Joe Biden will take you backward. Joe Biden had 47 years to do all the things that he said he was going to do in his convention speech, which a lot he lifted from Jack Lawton, Canadian leader, which we found that out over the weekend, and he lifted from himself in the 2008 convention speech he gave as the vice presidential nominee. And Trump has to really highlight, not that he did that, but that, look, folks, he's promising, somebody did a great job overlaying that speech. He's made the same promises that he made in 2008. Well, he was the vice president for 8 years. He was in D.C. for 47. Why aren't these things done? Because he's just a politician. Do not go back and hand the country off to the politicians again. Stick with me. I've done what I said I was going to do. I have kept my promises. Let's keep moving forward and finish this. Don't give in to them. Don't give in to them. Don't hand the reins back to the people that refused over the last 4 years to acknowledge your decision. Don't reward them with giving back your freedom and your prosperity. We're almost there. And that's what he's got to do. That has always been the most effective line of attack against Joe Biden, because he is a career politician, as well liked as he is. And Hillary was not well liked, but she was still a politician, seen as widely competent, right? Very competent. I trust her so much on this. I trust her so much to handle this. But Donald Trump just clobbered her with, she's been promising this for 3 decades. Why didn't you do it, Hillary? Why didn't you do it at the debates? Remember that? That sent our tests off the charts when he would do that. Off the charts. That's what he needs to continue to do. All right? Doesn't matter if Biden's liked or not. But go ahead, Laura.
Oh, no, just something simple. Daniel, the one said the boxer is Jack Johnson.
Thank you.
Just want you to...
Jack Johnson was convicted of, I believe, dating a white girl. Right? I believe. And that we covered that on PPD. It was a big deal. All right. And yeah, I mean, so, and again, Barack Obama twice had the opportunity to pardon Jack Johnson. He refused. Was Joe Biden there saying we should right this wrong? We should fix this injustice?
Well, that's
no,
why
he was.
Honestly,
he was there. He just didn't do it.
Trump won, though, because they are old. Everything they're doing is just regifting. Americans like
to move forward. They don't like moving backward. They don't like going backwards. And I mean, they like to progress in the actual truest sense of the word to progress, the real meaning, right? Our founders used the word progress all the time. You know, so basically it meant something different to them. You're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be a perfect union. That's why they said we strive more perfect union, because as Americans, and hopefully into this system, we constantly will try to be more perfect. We will constantly try to progress. All right. Anyway, it is 11:50. I'm gonna wrap up here because I do have to get on that. All right. Let me just run some stuff by you guys real quick. All right. Let's see.
Explain to them about questions.
Oh, we will take more questions tomorrow. You know what? Take a few right now. You got some? Did you take any? Or let me take a few questions right now. Let's do a few.
Are you serious? Oh boy. All right.
You're up.
No, I'm up. I see how you just threw me into the. All right. Let's see. Carol King. Is it rare for a party that has the White House and Congress but loses the Congress in midterms to then retake the Congress next presidential election?
That's a great question. That really is a great question. I will say this also before I get to that. It is extremely rare for a midterm vote to be a predictive indicator of the subsequent presidential election. In other words, first-term incumbents typically get their butts kicked. All right, it happens. Their party, especially if they had a very good election like Republicans had, like Barack Obama had. George W. Bush was an exemption. It was an exception to the rule because we had the 9/11 terror attack, and Republicans got everything because they were seen as much more competent handling national security issues, right? A post-disaster America, right? And then so they were the exception to the rule. It is common for them to make at least gains. So if Donald Trump is reelected, then the Democratic House majority, the betting odds right now, they're not taking this into account. The House majority is absolutely in danger. Now, it is possible that the majority just tightens a little bit and the president is reelected. But typically, that incumbent president, when he wins, will make some gains. All right. Barack Obama, they didn't lose the House. They didn't win back the House in 2012, but they did make some gains, and they did better in the Senate than expected because he won re-election. And the Republicans actually tried to use some divisive and plausible Senate races, but they had a harder map. And then in 2018, they had 2014, they had a much better map. In 2016, they had a difficult map, but they had a great election. So Donald Trump drug some of those fools over the finish line with him, like Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. The most vehement Trump haters and abandoners, I would call them. Trump abandoners, the cowards who got scared to Billy Bush and ran. Folks, don't let these people ever trick you into thinking this is an issue of morality. They're cowards. They're political cowards. You think Kelly Ayotte has not talked dirty with her friends about men before? Are you kidding me? Come on. See, it's like pretending like Mary, Mother of God over here. All right. They ran because they saw political disaster, and they are political animals. And what did they get for it? Mark Kirk, Kelly Ayotte, or not Mark Kirk. I'm sorry. The other guy, Nevada. You screwed me up. I always had it right. And now it's totally messed up. He went down in flames, and so did Kelly Ayotte. So that's what they got for it. And frankly, good for them, right? It is very possible because the majority is so small. Republicans started off not needing as many seats. They won a few special elections, so now they only need 17, I think. And there are another 28 districts that are, they always say the Trump districts are 30, 31. Well, Jeff Van Drew now, he came over. He is a Republican. That district will go for Donald Trump again. I am sure of it. Looking at some of the polling, I mean, it could happen. Things could change. But Jeff Van Drew's district is very likely going to stay in Donald Trump's column. Joe Heck, thank you, Lamb. All right. And he was he collapsed. He could have eked out that win, Joe Heck, but he abandoned Donald Trump and he collapsed. All right. So those are not the same coalitions. The Trump and Republican coalitions are not the same. And the Republican coalition gets more from the Trump coalition than the Trump coalition gets from the Republican coalition. All right. So in any event, it is very possible with Jeff Van Drew coming over, with Mike Garcia looking strong still in California at 25. And then there is, Minnesota could be close. It really could be. We'll just have to see. I will note to you guys that the polls in Minnesota have been very bad. And in 2018, Republicans lost their majority in the House of Representatives, but they were able to flip 3 districts to them. One was in working class Pennsylvania, which was a Democrat district for a while, even though they changed up. And the other 2 were both in the state of Minnesota. All right. And the polls were abysmal there. They're not easy. Minnesota's it's not an easy state. But just to tell you where there are some of these areas, Connor Lamb is in trouble, which nobody thought would have happened after he beat Rick Saccone, because they carved that district up and went from it being a Republican district, a Republican leaning to almost solid district, to a Democrat advantage. I mean, like, not solid Dem, but clearly likely Dem. Connor Lamb is in big trouble, according to both sides, their internal polling. So you could definitely foresee a district like that going. There's always these surprises in the House. Either way, if Donald Trump has a very good election, then you will see some of these districts go. It will be close. And then with Washington State, Republicans really made a huge surge in the primary. They were way up compared to 2018. So you could see Dino Rossi's old seat go back to Republicans. He lost that race. He had like a 6-point lead. He blew it. He barely lost it. Folks, there were tons of seats where Democrats just barely won. And they did so with a bunch of gimmicks and tricks. They're all bitching about Kanye West, Laura. Oops, they're all complaining about Kanye West being on the ballot playing dirty tricks. There's an article attacking him this morning. They did that everywhere in 2018. There were these independents all over the ballot that just happened to be very Republican-like. And the Democrats were supporting these candidates with digital ads to increase their footprint. So they just can't take their own medicine. They just can't take it, you know? Yeah, I mean, I would say, listen, I don't know Isaacs. I don't know if Isaacs tuned in earlier, if he just jumped into the show. But I'm not shocked to see his sister, I guess, is in Minnesota, and she helps with polls. Says there's a lot of silent. They suspect there are a lot of silent Trump supporters. I'm telling you, it is not an industry secret. There are large groups of voters that pollsters everywhere are having a very hard time reaching. Millennial men. How could you possibly know how that voting group is going if you're having a difficult time getting a hold of men? So that could be inflating Biden's lead a little bit. It could. You could foresee that easily inflating his lead if you're not gathering enough responses just from millennial men. Because the margin may be, number one, exacerbated, and their predictive vote share may be inflated because they may not turn out the way pollsters think are going to turn out. And then the other ones, of course, working class, non-metro suburbs. And again, that's men and women in that area, but particularly men. Black working men ages 30 and above, and not in urban areas. They can't get that. I mean, this is a major problem this cycle, and it's not an industry secret. Everybody knows about it. I don't know why you don't. I don't know why they release these polls without telling people. I applaud the guys at Marquette University for putting out that regional map. Okay. So yeah, and to answer her question in the short but sweet roundabout way, which I wanted to throw in a bunch of other stuff. It really will depend on whether Trump takes, a solid, if he wins and he wins solidly. But if he does, it is absolutely possible the House could go back, and it is very common for them to regain seats. It's the political pendulum in this country. It really is. Now, Biden has a great election. Then maybe they could, like the DCCC's out there saying they're going to expand the majority. There's not a lot of targets left. All right. They have a lot of seats to defend. I'm skeptical. Biden would have to win bigly. He'd have to win bigly. All right. One more, and then I'm going to kick rocks, guys. I got a lot to do. Hit it, Laura. You got one?
Yeah, I got more than one. I got 5,000, but here we go. Ashwin actually asked you an interesting question. And I never asked you this, so it's bizarre. In your opinion, do you think Trump is the greatest president in your lifetime? So pretty much, which president in your lifetime do you think is the best?
I try to stay impartial, Ashwin, so I don't like answering questions about my own political views. I will say this, though. Whether you like him or you don't like him, there's two things about Donald Trump that are really irrefutable. One, he has kept more promises than any other president.
Yeah, that's true.
Ever. I mean, you might have to go back to Grover freaking Cleveland to get.
But that's not your lifetime.
But it's not our lifetime. I mean, he has kept promises like no other president has done. That is a matter of historical fact. And actually, there are people who track this stuff. Campaign promises versus accomplishments. And I know the Heritage is right wing, and some people would say, "Oh, it's just a Heritage Foundation." He blew past Reagan 2 years ago. So
I look at Reagan like
Laura just likes Reagan because he's the Gipper. He was the Gipper, you know. I love him too. He was such a just a lovable guy and happy warrior. But Laura does like Trump too, you know. Me, and then the other thing, so I don't like to give my own personal, opinions. I will tell you, I've been surprised by how he's governed the way he has in many respects. I mean, he is not a politician, and he wasn't beholden to anybody. So maybe it really shouldn't surprise anybody that he was able to do what other people were not able to do, which was keep his promises. And then there's two things which I do care about, and I will praise him till the cows come home. It doesn't matter whether it makes me look impartial or not. Donald Trump is the most consequential space president since at least Nixon, if not ever. All right. NASA was in tatters under Barack Obama. They were bankrupt. Barack Obama was stealing from NASA to pay for domestic programs. There was no national space program and no national policy space directives anymore. None of that was really being issued right. It's more than just Space Force for folks, although that's the most forward-thinking idea I have ever heard in years. We need to have a Space Force. If we I find it funny how people who talk about global warming incessantly are too small-minded and short-sighted to see how key a Space Force is to our survival as a species. And if we don't do it, then more adversarial, less freedom-prone countries are going to do it. China will do it. China will govern commerce in and out of space. Russia, I think, is a declining superpower, right? This Russia hysteria is always joked, really has. And every measure of latent and raw power, Russia is a declining superpower. They are not the threat. China is the threat. They are the ones who project power across the stopping power of water, not Russia with its one broken aircraft carrier, okay? China has more, and China has the ability to decimate our carrier fleets. The carrier fleet is how America projects her power across the world. The idea Russia could stop that is ludicrous. But eventually, there will be mining operations to asteroids, to moons, to other planets' moons. Without that, we will not survive as a species, period. And I think that Donald Trump, whether we like him or not, whether he wins or loses in November, when we're long dead, whatever you want to call them, Americans, Earthlings, whatever you want to call them, we'll look back at Donald Trump and say, if it wasn't for that president, we would never know this planet exists here, because he's the one who funded that new scope. And we're only finding blue planets the way we are because of Donald Trump. They will look back and they will say, you remember before there were lunar launch pads? We couldn't get to Mars the way we can now easily back and forth. That was because of a president named Donald Trump. All right? Barack Obama bankrupted them. And then Trump came in, he put Pence at the helm, and he made him the chairman of the National Space Council, which had been gone for 3 decades. And we were just doing nothing. And again, I just find it crazy how these people who, global warming, the Earth's going to burn in 12 years. Well, if it's going to burn in 12 years, don't you think we need a freaking Space Force to get us off the planet? If the planet's going to, go to hell in a handbasket, it's going to be Armageddon in a little over a decade. I just can't believe the short-sightedness. We needed a space, and it has to be us to promote the safe exploration and commerce that is absolutely going to come. And I just can't believe some people are that short-sighted and or small-minded and short-sighted. I really can't, you know. All right. So listen, it's 12:05. Let's kick rocks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, folks. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at Peoples_Pundit, and you can follow PPD at PPD News. Okay. I'm going to go build a questionnaire now. We'll be back at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Okay. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook, People's Pundit Daily. And of course, subscribe on YouTube to People's Pundit Daily's page. That will notify you when Inside the Numbers is about to go live. Although I know I have heard you guys are getting some late. Just remember, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will absolutely have a lot to talk about tomorrow because we'll have RNC kicking off. Hopefully, maybe we'll even have some first wave numbers. Maybe. We'll see. But we'll have a lot going on, and we will answer more questions that we didn't get to today because we had to really get through a lot from the weekend. All right. Thanks again, folks. The best way to support the show is to become a subscriber at PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. All right. We will get some data for your dollar. Can't promise that we will cover everything, like I always say, but I can promise that what we cover will be covered more in depth, with more context, and more accurately than what you're getting anywhere else. All right. All the best, folks. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for overnight, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you own me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a